I've been doing a lot of GPU benchmarks lately, like a lot of them, to the point that I struggle to get gameplay that is actually representative of the GPU's performance because, well, to do so would require me to capture outside of a PC itself. Now, I often run my benchmark numbers completely isolated from any factor such as recording software, but more often than not, I find myself scaling the game down in order to record them properly. But that's going to change today because I just picked this up. This is the Elgato 4K 60 Pro Mark II. You don't really see the Mark II anywhere on here, but this is specifically the Mark II because it actually has the ability to do 4K 60 capture with 240 hertz pass through. This is actually a big deal when it comes to capturing PC gameplay because let's just say I play games above 60 frames per second regularly and I use a high refresh rate monitor. And so because of that, my current capture card setup, which is an HD 60, well, it's just not sufficient. I can't play the games natively while it's being plugged in there. And unfortunately, I'm stuck at 1080p on there. So this should fix that. This should be the final fix for this kind of a problem until, I exceed 4K, which I highly doubt that I'll be doing anytime soon. But as a longtime user of capture cards, what makes this worth this? Well, we're gonna have to see right after our intro and unboxing it and testing it. Let's get into it. Lately, guys, I've been doing a lot of benchmarking on GPUs, and that's actually a fortunate thing. Lately, I've been able to fall into GPUs within a price range that I consider affordable. But there is a problem, and it's a flaw that I just never addressed. And that is that my capture PC can't really capture them at their full glory. Now, YouTube's compression and all that stuff is a thing, and 60 frames per second is going to still be reduced to 30 frames per second when outputting my videos. But digressing a little bit, the bigger problem is that I never, ever set up to record. I recently did a bunch of benchmarks and then stopped, edited a video, and then re-recorded all of the gameplay when I should have been doing it all at once. Not even gonna joke, I wasted just so much time doing it that way. The bigger problem is I never had a capture card that could just pass through 1440p at 144 hertz. So looking at the box, we've got, well, actually pretty solid branding all around. Elgato, they sell in like Best Buy and stuff, so of course they have to have something. This is a single slot PCIe card. It is a PCIe low profile card. Has apparently instant pass-through and can display at over 240 hertz and can capture at 4K 60 with HDR. Not bad. Now, looking around the back, we can see just a bunch of branding, more information about this. OBS, Streamlabs, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, it's compatible with everything. Because realistically, this kind of device is more of just a hardware solution, and the software, well, Elgato doesn't even have to make it. Now, I will say, as a capture card, they are a little expensive. This one came in at just under $250 with tax. I think it was like $220 specifically. So this isn't exactly your first solution if you're getting into game streaming. All right, so presentation-wise, we got our box. Just kind of opens up and that just slides out. Not bad. It's a box in a box. And of course, there it is. Oh, wow. So this is interesting. It comes with some cardboard with a secondary bracket. Now, this is for if you actually have this in a low profile case. Now, I don't really see much of a use case for that, but you could. We also have our Elgato badge, which is glued in. It's glued and it's got glue. It's just an Elgato case badge. I've actually got another one of those laying around somewhere. Instruction manual for ants. It's an instruction manual for ants. On the inside, we also have an HDMI cable, which is actually pretty good because presumably you're going to set this up and forget about it. And that's kind of the ideal situation for this. This is really a capture card to connect two computers together. That's a nice cable, actually. Yeah, it's pretty decent. Not gonna really need it because I already have plenty, but I'm always down to have extra HDMI cables. The reason that a capture card like this exists is actually to primarily service a specific market, PC gamers who want to stream and record gameplay. And the reason that this is important for that is specifically its high refresh rate capabilities and the fact that you would need two computers to actually use it with open PCIe slots. This is different than their external capture cards, which can be powered off of USB. But I have often found that when it comes to game capture, this is just so much more reliable than any USB card. USB cards I've had issues with for years, and unless they have onboard video encoding, I've not had a lot of success using them. So instead, I've switched over to these kinds of cards, and they just are really solid. And this is no exception. Look at this. This is a beautiful little card here. Very solid. This piece, by the way, aluminum. So I'm literally going to take out my old card and put this one in, and we're gonna just start using it. And then I will see you guys after I've tested it for a little bit. So yeah, let's do a time skip. So I got it set up, and let's just say my setup's a little interesting. There's an octopus behind my desk, and it is all my cables. But in those cables, I have the switch set up to my other Elgato capture card, and then now this one is hooked up to my secondary gaming PC. And there's some interesting quirks about it that I do want to share. So for one, that monitor can run at 144 hertz. Unfortunately, this caps out at 120 over 1440p. I'm assuming at 1080p you can do higher, but this does seem to have a tiny bit of a limit. That being said, losing 20 hertz is not really the end of the world. The other weird thing about this is because technically I'm plugged into the capture card, FreeSync doesn't want to enable, even though FreeSync's part of that monitor's feature set. So I guess if there's anything to improve is somehow communicating that FreeSync is able to be enabled, or even having FreeSync and G-Sync maybe built into the capture card could be really cool. I haven't really been experiencing tearing on it at all, and the actual frame rates coming out of it look pretty damn good. And as you can see from this gameplay footage that I'm just gonna throw up on the screen, yeah, it looks good. The capture looks great. I can pretty much capture this secondary PC without, well, any limitation. Like, we've got Halo. Let's throw some Borderlands on here. I've got some, maybe let's throw up Phantasy Star Online and then some Cyberpunk. Like, all of this footage, by the way, I've been capturing because, well, I'm reviewing the GPU that's in there. But because of that, like, I can unimpededly record everything. And it's fascinating because it means that for the first time ever, I can record a game with no extra limitations put on it to make sure that it goes through properly. In fact, here, let me kind of throw up my wiring diagram. I know this is very engineering, but this is how it's set up. So we have the gaming PC that is then outputting directly to the capture card, which is then going to the monitor. And that is the entire display setup for that. We then have the switch, which is also going to the main PC and then to the display as well. And then the main PC also goes to that same display as well. That display is doing a lot of work. And from there, I also have a second display that goes to that other PC, which allows me to monitor things while, well, it's not being used as the main screen. So from there, I essentially have the ability to kind of just do things. Like, I can switch between both the main display to the gaming display to the switch, all in OBS without having to press a single button. And on the display itself, I just press the button and I can switch it to the right one, which is super convenient and is exactly what I wanted the capture card to do. Also, I haven't had a single issue with encoding. It can go for hours. I've mistakenly recorded entire benchmark runs, like the whole thing, like all of it. And so because of that, I know for a fact that it's not overheating at least. And I mean, it looks kind of cool having two capture cards sitting side by side. I mean, I could throw a third one in like the cam thing, but I don't use my webcam function very much. I could, but I don't. I mean, it does make me think that maybe I should start streaming, but I already kind of affect everybody in this apartment every time I record a video. So I'm hesitant to do something like that. Maybe we've experimented using the virtual Wolfie character. Maybe if I do streams, I'll do it like that. I don't know. Leave it in the comments if you want to see like streams like that on this channel, or if you want to see that on the second channel, the virtual Wolfie. Let me know. I am kind of curious. Digressing a little bit. The setup itself works great, and the actual install process worked flawlessly. So all I had to do was slap it into a PCIe slot, and it did its thing. It just popped up in OBS. That being said, I already do have an Elgato HD60 already in my system, so any drivers that it needed, it probably already had. I didn't have to download anything special off of Elgato's website. It just shows up in OBS as a input, and as long as that PC is powered, the gaming PC can display. That's simple. It just works. So overall, if you are a streamer or a PC gamer or a reviewer, benchmarker, and you're looking for just something, or if you're even just getting into this space and you're looking for something that just works and works well and doesn't have to deal with USB's bandwidth issues and powering out issues, I fully recommend this. It is actually easily worth the money to not have the headache. That being said, I have a few friends who are streamers who have kind of run into issues when it comes to encoding. And that's mainly because they're encoding massive streams. When that happens, and this is experience that I have that come from a different time when I did Let's Plays regularly, the best way to address it is to have a capture card that has onboard encoding. Now, there are a couple of them. Live Game Reportable by AverMedia is one of them. I used the HD version of that card for years, and on a low-powered PC, it handles the encoding itself, which is great. Elgato also makes the HD 4K, or no, it's the 4K 60 Pro capture card. It's one that's like not in the PC. It's one that sits on your desk. That one also has onboard encoding, and when it's using its encoder is great for that kind of thing. Maybe I should do a video on this specifically, but when you're making a stream and you're trying to get a recording, downsample to 1080p. Like we maybe go to 1440 to 1080. I understand people want to pass through like their 4K signal onto like their ultra wide monitor, and your stream isn't going to see that. So like output to 1080p. Don't overload your NVENC encoder or your H.265 encoder or your ACE. I don't know what AMD's one is called actually, but just don't overload your encoder and you should be fine in most cases. And realistically, you can always cap your frame rate to 60 frames per second because that's what's being displayed to your stream. So always play around with your settings. Don't expect everything to be a magic bullet. But this is pretty damn close. So yeah, that's where we're gonna end today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, please leave it a like, maybe comment, and subscribe. I do content like this all the time. And in fact, I would love to know what you guys think about me doing a stream every Monday, maybe. Maybe if I already started. You never know. I don't. But that's where we're gonna end today, guys. So thank you again, Wolfie.